time. Welcome to the second ever diversity panel for our PRSSA chapter. I want to thank everybody who made the time this evening to come, and for Kelly, I guess like morning time, and dedicating the time to delve into the most hot and current marketing trend of the social media age, which is influencer marketing. I mean, of course, see, we already have one of the influencers influencing, which should and must intertwine with diversity. So your attendance is so greatly appreciated by me and my PRSSA chapter. Housekeeping is that this will be a recorded event, but it will only be capturing our panelists' spotlighted videos. So I do encourage you to keep your cameras on so that our panelists can speak to real human beings and not into the deep black abyss. But that is ultimately up to you because I know privacy reasons. Please put any questions you have in the chat box and we will spend the last 10 to 15 minutes answering them, or you can privately message me directly if you feel more comfortable with that. So who am I? My name is Leah Hyman. I am a senior communication major at the University of Delaware, and I am the diversity director for our PRSSA chapter. Now, there's a lot of you here that are not a part of PRSSA, which is always great because it means that our event is far-reaching. So a little bit of background is that is the Public Relations Student Society of America, and it's the foremost organizations for students interested in public relations and communications. We seek to provide our members really practical hands-on experience with local PRSSA activities and national networking events with PR professionals, trips to PR agencies, and just a big global network. So, like I said before, my name is Leah. I'm going to be moderating the event this evening, but the real stars of the program are our lovely panelists. So let me introduce you to them. So Elijah Kolpout is a men's fashion content creator who traded in his corporate life in Nashville for creative endeavors in the city of brotherly love. He strives to incorporate gender-neutral clothing into his style to battle toxic masculinity and gender norms in fashion. He has amassed most of his following through his display of personal style, but also offers life advice through his own continual learning. Elijah strives to encourage others to embody their own versions of self-expression and challenge society's expectations on how we live our lives. Kelly Uchima is a 4'11" petite powerhouse with IBS and a passion for eating disorder recovery, mental wellness, self-love, and sobriety. She is best known for her fearless and compassionate approach when it comes to stigmatized topics such as therapy, digestive issues, and binge eating. A celebrated mental health advocate, she created the hit podcast Therapy Thursday to share the most raw, vulnerable parts of herself. Kelly has given keynote speeches at various universities, spoken at National Eating Disorder Association walks, and at Dove's first ever virtual global summit. And last but certainly not least, we have Darren Graham, who is a lifestyle blogger and owner of Chics, an affordable jewelry company that speaks to the definition of inclusivity. Darren has been the face for many of our favorite brands that you know, like Uniqlo, Birkenstock, Express Men, Kenneth Cole, and more. His goals are to always promote the importance of comfort and confidence in his content. Outside of Instagram, Darren is an education coordinator in New York City. So I've done a lot of talking at you so far, and I'm like the least special person of this panel. So let's get started with the real questions. But let's first understand what influencer marketing is. In the fancy way, it is a form of social media marketing involving endorsements and product placements by people that have an expert level of knowledge or social influence in their field. I like to say that's a fancy way of saying companies compensate you, influencers, to promote their products and services because of your online presence and following. Between 2016 and 2021, the global influencer marketing market size increased by $12.2 billion. This form of marketing is not going away. It's exponentially expanding, and a lot of us here are future PR professionals, so we would like to understand it a little bit more from the people that we're going to be interacting with. So I often hear the question, what do influencers even do? What do they influence? As influencers yourself, I'm hoping that you can answer that as my first question of the panel. What do you view your role as to your audience? And what are you providing to them? How are you influencing them?
You are, first of all, such an amazing host. Like, I feel like this is a show. So thank you for those amazing intros. I also find this world to be really fascinating. In 2021, I finally left my job as a university researcher at U of I. I was just studying childhood development. So I've learned a lot. And you are correct that when a brand wants to work with us, they are essentially paying for our audience's attention and the real estate on our pages. I think my presence online used to be much more of like a support system for recovery and eating disorders and kind of sharing my own journey. And the cool thing about having social media is that you grow as a person and can really document that you grow out of a lot of disordered behaviors and struggles. And so the fun part about having an audience that I'm very close to, they trust us, they feel connected to us. And now more of my role is almost being just like a consistent presence in their life, like a friend, someone who shares random things, what we do, what we like, things that are helping me with my constipation. It is really interesting how deeply connected we feel to people that we even just tap through sometimes. Sometimes it is fun when it's even a less heavy topic to just live vicariously through others, which is something I didn't really understand when I was in much more deep topics. So it's really cool.
Everything that was so amazing. Thanks for that for that descriptive, very descriptive definition. I feel like the least educated after going, after what you're saying, Kelly. But I also just wanted to tap in on that and just say that I just keep it very real in my content. As an influencer, I just like to draw my audience in with just like authenticity and just like nothing that's pretensive or nothing that's unrelatable. I love to just be relatable, be very transparent, show up and maybe someday show up with my glasses on in a robe and just have conversation. I don't always have to be glamorified. So yeah, very much on that. And like I said, inclusivity, like lots of it. I play the roles of everything. I wear everything, every type of accessory, every type of t-shirt, shirt. I will throw a skirt on if I need to and mix it up and make it, look really cool for, a guy at 6'3" I am to have on that skirt and make a female feel comfortable enough to say, oh, that's cool. I didn't even think about that way. But yeah, I just think that as influencers, we just utilize that market and market it well. That's why I think clients trust us.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, I definitely believe that I don't really consider myself an influencer. I consider myself a content creator, but what I'm here to do is ultimately encourage others to express themselves in whatever capacity that is. My personal self-expression is through men's fashion, and every now and then I'll share like my views on life in general, but I just want to encourage everyone to do what it is that they feel is the best for them and what's right for them, because a lot of times society, has a grapple with us like in regards to that, and a lot of people don't express themselves in the way that they would like. So ultimately just encouraging others to be themselves and do what it is that they like to do.
Thank you, everyone. I think there's, it's the common theme that you guys as influencers, just the three of you, that doesn't apply to everybody. It's really about making people feel comfortable in their own skin, and you guys all do that in different ways, but you're all, doing it. So when, the title of the panel is diversity in influencer marketing. What does diversity in influencer marketing even mean? What does it look like? And why is it important?
I remember when I started using Instagram, I felt like, I'm 4'11", I'm Asian, I have no place here, and a lot of people might not be able to relate to me, but I still felt like at least my struggles and my story would be a fabric that we could all kind of bond over. And it does fascinate me that there will be like a few other Asian girls that will say, hey, we have like a similar body type, or, oh, I've had that kind of relationship with my parents, some of the traumas or things like that, because my parents are not from here. Lots of other themes that I may not have ever thought someone would relate to me on. And I think this is something I always craved when I was younger, because consuming lots of Nickelodeon and Disney, all I saw was really beautiful, thin white girls with blonde hair. And I think just having other people we can follow that kind of mirror us, whether it be our looks or our feelings or experiences, is highly valuable. And I do think that brands really see that now. But the hard part about being a person who is in a minority group is we sometimes we want to be someone who is hired because they are diverse, but not a diversity hire. So that's something that I just struggle with sometimes, but I'm grateful for opportunities nonetheless.
Yeah, for me, it was like literally the opposite of Kelly's. With the 411 thing, it was more so finding my place as a taller guy with garments. And as a taller guy, I just found it very difficult to find designers and even like commercialized stores that mass produce that carry my length or my width. Like I have a very like a 30 size 30 waist with a 35 inseam. And I just wanted to create my own definition of style for taller guys. And I told myself that I was just gonna just take a bunch of risk, just do what I want to do. I guess I got highlighted for being the guy with the anklet and sock thing, the anklet around the sock. I love jewelry. That was my second thing. And I wanted to just show guys that it's okay to mix metals and play with jewelry and just stack them, keep stacking them. The more is better, you know, and just like display different types of like gems and stones. And I just wanted to mix it up a bit. It was just very boring for men, you know, just like the basic collared t-shirt and a tie and slacks. And that's what you considered style. That's boring to me. That's very boring. Like add some pizzazz to it. Throw maybe a star on you know, like a brooch on your blazer and make it fun. So I just, yeah, that's how I wanted to mix it up a bit.
Elijah, I know you probably have had similar experiences to Darren in terms of mixing it up.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say something about that because as a straight identifying male, I feel like a lot of times we're put in a box and straight males can't express themselves in any capacity when it comes to fashion. And I like to walk the line and wear things that are either gender neutral or sometimes even more associated with women. As you can see, I wear a lot of jewelry. Most straight men don't do that, but I really want to encourage people to ultimately just embrace who it is that they are within, because a lot of times people don't embrace that side of themselves because of what society is going to say. And like, I want to encourage others to basically do the exact same thing that I do. It's really hard to have, it's really hard to like embrace certain things if you're afraid to do it. And I want to show other people that you can. And I have a more athletic build. I'm 6'2", so I'm tall, just like Darren. And I'm also just like kind of stalky. And most times you don't see people dressed the way that I am, which is why I like to do it, because it's like, yeah, like even the athlete can wear whatever he wants. Like you don't have to be boxed into a certain genre just because of either whether your height or your overall body build.
Kelly, I do like something that you touched upon where the same reasons that like diversity is important in influencer marketing are some of the same reasons that irritate you because you don't want to be seen just for your womanness or your Asianness, and you don't want to be put in this box of you're representing this entire group of people. So what does tokenizing in this industry mean to you? And what does it look like in influencer marketing, and how, most importantly, can companies avoid doing it? I know that is a big corporate issue, but how can they make it so that you guys don't feel tokenized for maybe your marginalized identities? Kelly, unmute yourself.
There you go.
There you go.
Actually, something really fascinating that happened to me 2 weeks ago is someone had mentioned to me about, oh, how's your year going with influencing? I bet last year you made so much money because of all the Stop Asian Hate stuff. And I was like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, because that's not what I was hoping to do last year. And it was just random that someone would mention that for such a traumatic time of life anyway. But in my mind, it really got me thinking about how, that could be true. And I think that brands can really save themselves a lot of trouble by just always incorporating diversity. So not at specific months of the year, not when there's special weeks going around. There's so much opportunity. There's so much incentive these days for brands to just do it because it makes you look good. Sometimes I just want to tell them that if you really don't have the heart and you don't really care about it, we can't change that, but maybe it would just be good for your business. So I really think that always having diverse campaigns where it doesn't look like you're just trying to paint like a really nice picture makes it easier for people and consumers to trust that it could be genuine. And hopefully through that company putting more exposure in their own eyes, they will start to care.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were we spreading the question? Were you were we spreading the question, or was just
Oh
that?
yeah, if you have something to say,
Okay,
you're
yeah.
more
So
than welcome to answer.
I just, in retrospect as well, I guess that goes for like again, taller men, where when I first started, I would always I had management before when I first started influencing, I guess, and they would always send me the sports deals, always. This one wants to send out this one. This one wants you to come on board and do some basketball stuff. And I'm just like, well, just because I'm 6'3" doesn't mean that I play ball, because I don't. Don't get it twisted. I avoid the court by all costs. It's not my thing. And I had to consistently like remind people, like, that's not my thing. That's not my thing. That's not my thing. Stop. Just because I'm a tall Black guy, do not line me up with basketball. Even if I did know how to play the sports, please don't line me up with it just because I'm tall and 6'3". So I totally get that.
Elijah, do you have anything to add, or are you good?
Yeah. I mean, there's it hasn't happened to me as much. I haven't been doing content creation as long as some of the other two here. But just like little things, like people reaching out to me during Black History Month. It's like, okay, well, you've never talked to me before, or reached out to me for any other types of campaigns previously. Then I look at your page. There's not really any diversity on there now, so I would appreciate if you don't reach out to me now. Don't use me as a means to advertise to your audience. I feel like we could probably all agree that that's a little disrespectful on one end, and then on top of that, like, you just should be more inclusive in general. There shouldn't be any month or one certain time of year that we're all included in regular campaigns that they're offering to other content creators.
Mm-hmm. So when a company does reach out, expressing interest to work with you all, what are some of your criterias for accepting that offer? Does it go to maybe what their company statement says, previous experience, money, morals, the actual product? Do you want to use it? I would like you guys to kind of take us through that process and decision making when deciding if that company will fit with your own personal brand.
So I know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Elijah. You can go.
Basically, whenever a brand reaches out to me, I try to make sure it aligns with my own personal brand, what I'm trying to encourage others to do. And then obviously there's going to be other aspects of it. If it's a larger brand, I'll research to see if there's anything that I don't agree with that they've done in the past, so I'm not misrepresenting myself, because I want to make sure the brands align with not only myself but also my audience, because I would hate to falsely advertise what I do or what I encourage by working with a brand that doesn't align with what I actually believe in.
So yes to all of that. And then I have a small group here in New York, of a small group of friends that are really successful. I'm not as successful as they are, but I'm getting there. And I always speak to their experience with that brand. So I trust my friends' experiences a lot because they're very transparent with it. Like, they will, like, give me the full rundown. They even go as far as like tapping me into the email thread to see how, that conversation went. How was that relationship? Like, I'm big on relationship. I'm big on respect. I'm big on transparency. You'll hear me mention it like a million times throughout the panel. And again, like, also rates. You're going to pay me what I'm asking for, because I think people's misconception of an influencer or content creator is that we receive all these free things and we just throw it out there and just, hey guys, this is what it is, and it's just so pretty. No, you don't understand. It's actually a lot of work. Sourcing aside, ideas. Sometimes we get creative blocks. Like, the look has to be. We're editing. We're cleaning things up. We're doing all this behind the scene research. We have to like make sure that the brand aligns. Like, we have to make sure that you're respectful of our rate. Like, it's a really big back and forth. Like, brands would literally try to get you down to free, and just really disregard that you have bills to pay or any other things. So all those things fall into one when it comes to like considering that brand.
Everything those two just said. And yeah, really the nitty gritty of it is they'll reach out and say, hey, we want to partner with you. Can you send us your rates and can you send us your insights? So the mental and emotional part of it actually is a really big thing, because you are immediately reminded that you are only valuable to this brand. Not always. There are amazing brands that I have worked with that really care about the way you interact with your audience. They really are watching. What do people comment? How do they feel connected to you? What are the words that you say to your audience? But at the end of the day, they want to know how many people are watching your story, how many link clicks are you getting within 14 to 30 days, how many views, likes, comments are you getting on the last 30 days of your content. And it really, for me, is, in my experience, there's so much pressure to perform, and for brand, no one really wants to consume an ad. So the process of accepting an ad is really me thinking about, how will this serve my audience? How will I get them engaged in it? How can I make them not be annoyed by me by posting this? And how do I make the brand really happy? There's so much more than just and the rates. I love that you really mentioned that. Is there's so much that we also will money that gets put into it. So because I care about a lot of my brandies, I hire a photographer and a videographer to make sure that the content is amazing. The big percentage of my work will go to my agency, a big percentage goes to the people I work with, and then a big percentage is like the outfits that I pick to shoot it, the place I rent to shoot it at. So not every content creator has to do that. I mean, that's why TikTok is amazing. There's so many people that are just getting billions of views doing some things in their room, which is also cool. But I think Instagram still is in this world of like trying to make everything look cool and perfect. So those are all the things that go through my head when I see an incoming offer.
Believe it or not, our influencers did not hear my questions before the panel, but I think we all just walked right into my next question, which is, I want to give a little bit of background because statistics and facts are really important to me. So according to a study conducted by the Influencer League and MSL Group in 2021, influencers of color are paid up to 35% less than white influencers. A report from 7/6 agency found that 37% of influencers surveyed said the fees they can charge can decrease because of their ethnicity. And 99% of that 37% were influencers who identified as a person of color. When it comes to pay disparity, how do you think influencers in the position of power can help the ones being paid less? You know, Darren, you talked about transparency is really important to you. I'm curious on how the three of you feel like it might be you that can uplift other people, you know, just because you're people of color doesn't necessarily mean you identify with this 37%, but what are some of your ideas?
I think one of the only things that I have to add to that, because I literally just had this conversation, not in the same context, but like very similar to it on another panel last week. And I feel, and I'm going to say not to offend anyone, but like, I feel like a lot of the amazing content comes from people of color, and then maybe a person that's a non-colored person will go and recreate that on their platform because they are so popular and so well known, and never credit the people that originally created that content. Like, I've seen this happen so many times, and it has been all over, you know, the internet. Of just, for instance, that young lady that started doing the dances on TikTok was a Black girl, and her whole entire swag was stolen, you know, by the what is Charlie D'Amelio, whatever her name is, and then she just became she is the number one influencer on TikTok, and all of that young lady's dances were stolen and recreated on her page just because she was a white girl and that was a Black girl and she had more followers. It became a big issue. I just feel like, just credit us the right way, pay us what we asked for, and that's it.
Yeah, I was also gonna. I was also gonna say, I think it gets really complicated too, especially for someone who understands how advertising works, that they're paying for a certain market. I think a lot of times they're looking at us as lesser than, because our target market is smaller because we are minorities. So there's going to be less people we can touch in general when it comes to numbers. So it's really hard to decipher whether we're being underpaid because we're of color or because the target market we're looking for is also smaller. that's when I would normally reach out to someone else that I know. A lot of the brands I work with, some of my peers work with as well. And I asked them what those conversations were, just like Darren said. I'm like, hey, like when you had a conversation with them about this, how did it sound? What did it look like? And that's kind of when I decide if I want to work with that brand or not. Otherwise, I'm just like you, Darren, like I need my rates. Pay me what I'm worth. Yeah.
I've definitely had a lot of insecurities about if other creators that are similar to me but are white are making more money than me. And I think that's what really made me commit to having management. They are there to represent me and stand up for me and my rates. And it is really scary to be someone fighting to show your worth. And a lot of times people who are working for these brands are just PR people. They don't really care. I mean, they're working in marketing, they have to hit their margins and whatever. So they're not as deeply entrenched emotionally or mentally in this conversation. So having someone who's also business savvy, like a manager, going in very direct has saved me a lot of feeling hurt. Like I am very sensitive. I care about my platform, and I would feel very insecure, feeling like I had to fight for it. So that's just advice that I have for anyone who is a creator or an influencer. That takes a lot of mental energy and space that can rather be used to serve the people that follow me, or words that I can share. And also speaking to other creators and being honest about our rates has been very helpful. Like I will DM my friends or text them and say, hey, this brand has reached out to me. What did they offer you? Obviously, a lot of us have different rates because of our followings, but it helps to kind of break that. We all wish that there was just a streamlined rate for per brand, but as the others mentioned, like they keep it a secret because they want to get you down to as small as they can get it.
I would like to say, we have a lot of students on the call. It's not unlike the job search process where you're going to have to ask around for different salaries before you commit to it, because ultimately, hiring managers, just like marketing people, they're trying to get the best deal out of you. And it doesn't make them the enemy per se, but it means that you need to also stick up for yourself and your worth. And as a lot of future marketers on this call, you need to listen to, what the influencers on this call are saying is that just like if you're going to be reaching out to different media outlets and journalists, you should be doing your background research on the influencers you're reaching out to and understand what is an appropriate, to pay them. And should they even be representing your content? So I really appreciate what all of you guys are saying. We briefly touched upon Kelly, when you said that last year, it must have been so great to have, Stop Asian Hate being popular because you were getting so many brand deals. So during COVID, we saw an increase in discussion about lots of social justice initiatives on social media. A lot happened during the pandemic. It's not even over yet, but some examples are Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate, anti-Semitism awareness, and a lot more. When one of these causes or issues is intertwined with your identity, in other words, directly affects you, do you feel a sense of responsibility to speak up on social media about it? Or even if it doesn't, that's okay too.
So I speak to it all because one, I'm an educator. I've been an educator for the past 9 years, and I have a lot of babies in my care. Like my license allow me to see children from 4 to 11. So it is very important for me to be a positive example and for me to be on the forefront of a lot of things. And because I'm very sensitive to, just like Kelly said, I care so much about not what people think of me, but how people perceive my brain, right? And I never just want to be another person just out there. You're just another content creator. I mean, there's millions of us, but there'll only be one Darren. And I always, carry myself to represent myself in a way that I will always speak up on the matters that I feel deeply about. Because in my school, there's an Asian girl, there's an Asian boy, there's a Black boy, there's a black girl, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when I speak up, I'm representing those little faces that cannot have that conversation. And one of the biggest things that you spoke about was the Asian hate, surprisingly. I just feel like, especially here in New York, Asians are so disrespected. very disrespected, even in every market that they're in. Even my colleagues at work are disrespected. You know, a lot of people just act so weird and like, do you understand what I'm saying to you? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Yeah, she understands what you're saying to her because she's holding the same degree that you're holding and she's teaching the class just like you are. So don't be rude. And I'm always that person that's standing up for that next person. So I always use my platform in the way to speak up.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. If it's something that especially if it's something that particularly resonates with me, I always want to speak an opinion about it. If it's something that I don't understand, then that's when I take time to educate myself. I don't like to speak on things that I'm not aware of, and misrepresenting any type of information, because as we know, social media, especially Instagram, is not a reliable source of information. A lot of it is opinionated. So when I see something that piques my interest or I think is really important, that I'll educate myself. And once I've done the work to educate myself, that's when I would share a message about how I feel about it and how I think that we should handle the situation.
I love what you guys just shared. And for me, whenever any kind of social justice issue comes up, I at least try to like acknowledge it. I want people who follow me who may be going through it, or if it's something personal to me, at least to feel like someone is acknowledging that. And I also have learned to not go overboard in terms of me trying to learn so much to try proving that I care has been a big process for me, and giving space to others who definitely I want to give them space just within the algorithm or within Instagram to have their stuff be seen, because there has been a lot of pressure on creators and influencers to share a lot, which I think is great because there are people who follow us and we need to acknowledge. I think though, not taking on the role of becoming the educator of that has been a big learning process for a lot of influencers. And there have been a lot of situations where my friends may be like called out or called in, and it's a process of just noticing like, do we owe so much to the people following us to do that? It would almost be fake to act like we know so much about it and share so many resources. That's where I think we then lose authenticity. And I think there's a big balance when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And actually at last year's panel, we discussed cancel culture. And I think that is what a lot of influencers are afraid of, that, you know, if Black Lives Matter is going on and you're Black and they're saying, why aren't you speaking up? Well, that's not any single person's responsibility, and it's your choice what you use your platform for. So I think that it does create a lot of pressure on influencers. That is unfair. Going off that previous question, does a brand's commitment to a specific cause or lack thereof affect your decision to partner with them? If they haven't spoken up about it, or they spoke up about it in a way that you didn't agree with. We talked about kind of tokenizing maybe Pride Month or Black History Month. Do you think about that at all? Do you care about it?
I personally haven't been approached with by any brand that I'd have to really worry about that with. My following is not as large as these two, so a lot of the brands I work with are smaller, so their voice is already smaller. So a lot of times they don't even speak up about certain things, which I understand that as well. But when my page grows larger and I am talking to some of those larger brands, I would take that into account just to see if they responded to something that I found was really important or resonated with me or people that I'm associated with, to make sure that I'm not, once again, misrepresenting what I stand for. And I'm sure the other two could agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. All of that plays into a part. Like, you have to have a conversation about what's happening, what's currently happening. If you can have a conversation about current trends, that should be in the conversation as well too. So yes, I do take that into consideration too. And I've worked with you in the past, or you're currently housing one of my campaigns and something really crazy happens and I feel like you need to shed light on it and you don't, I will be sending you an email and asking you to have a conversation about it. And if you refuse, then I will be asking you to remove my content respectfully.
I definitely care. if it's something I've seen or if it's something I noticed, then yes. There are just so many things that happen. Like I'm saying, like things that brands do or don't do. We're not, as content creators, we may be approached by a brand, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I like know much about them or have seen them. So we stay very aware, but I also think an expectation for any influencer to know everything and find everything is also just like a lot. Luckily, I've never had any issues with the brands that I work with. They've all been very like kind, warm, socially conscious, but I can assume that in that circumstance, I would do my best to look into them. And I think that if it's a good brand with a genuine message and a good mission, it's likely that they're all would be in alignment and that wouldn't be a problem. But if it was, you would definitely like I would communicate that. And that's really the best way. And I love what the others said.
Thank you all. Elijah, you started your influencer journey only a few years ago and quickly found yourself embraced by the fashion community on Instagram. Since then, you've worked with a variety of brands as well as different levels of compensation. What are some of the most positive or memorable experiences that you've had with brand reps where they made you feel valued? Do you have any memories of conversations or just pleasantries maybe going back and forth? Because I think as future marketers, it's important to know how we should interact with you where you can leave the interaction, feeling like positive and that you want to work with us.
Yeah, I think the most positive thing is communication. Communication in a timely manner, communicating things clearly. That's really, really important when it comes to working with content creators, because obviously we have busy lives and we're doing things a lot as well. So, something as simple as responding to an email quickly and having the right information in it. I've had some experiences where I'm waiting a day or 2 days and I don't know what's going on with the brand that I'm working with. Then I've also had others who respond to me very promptly. And I think that's really important. If you want someone to work with you, then you have to respect their time and their attention, just like you want them to respect yours. And that's probably my best experience in general. It's just the pleasant interactions, obviously being polite through email. I think most people will do that anyway if they're trying to obtain your business. But being attentive, being timely, and clearly communicating is of the utmost importance.
I don't know if either of you two have anything to add. You don't need to.
So I would say also the brands that I love working with the most trust you to like bring their vision to life. So when we get a brand deal, they send us like all these talking points, key messages, like creative briefs, which are just basically like long PDFs of everything you need to include. And we want to express to our audiences, what this is, and we want to make the brand happy. But I do emphasize that we as creators know what would resonate with the audience best to get them in the door. So a lot of times I try to express to them, we need to get them to want to be a part of watching this or listening to this. And then I like kind of, seep it in, because no one wants a commercial. No one wants to watch a commercial when they're just enjoying their social media. So I really emphasize to brands that we will do everything we can to please you, but like the audience is first.
Kelly, I'd like to stay with you for a second. You started off as a fitness account, and I joked with you during our call before that I've been following you since the beginning. So somewhat of a starstruck celebrity over here. But you used to focus more on your struggle with eating disorders, and your longtime followers have seen you progress to where you are today. Over the years, your social media presence has shifted and developed in both quality and content. You spoke about how you have videographers now, you're paying other people to help you. You even moved to California. But your core themes of self-love and acceptance have stayed the same. How has this personal development and increased social media following affected the types of brands you choose to work with, or the types that reach out to you and the types of collaborations you're doing?
I think before, just the person that I was really only focused on, I have an eating disorder. I really latched on to the identity of, I can only talk about this. I can only help people. I'm only here to save people. And if I'm not feeding them so much of my own vulnerability and my own advice, then they will not want to be here anymore. And I started to learned that not everyone is always needing such a deep, like there are so many other aspects of me and a person. So as I started to share more like, oh, I like eating this or wearing this or going to this, it made it feel like we were actually like friends. Like when I talk to my friends in normal life, I'm not like, oh man, you want to know what my therapist said to me today? And this is how I can help you. Have a great day. That really helped brands start seeing me as a whole person. And just in my own personal development, I felt more worthy of just being myself versus always having to help people. So it was really beneficial in business, but as well as like, I can actually live my life and people actually want to see other aspects of you. And the mundane is fun. Like what sauce do you use on your chicken? I don't know what I was going to say, but it's the little things, and brands love those little moments. And there's so many little products that you use every day that you don't realize, like, oh, a brand might want to like help pay for you to like talk about that when it's something that you would just talk about anyway.
That's a great point, and I think you're right. It helps you even feel more whole as a person instead of being pigeonholed into this one avenue. Darren, I want to now shift to you. You describe yourself as a lifestyle blogger on Instagram, but you also have the secret superpower of working full-time as an education coordinator in the New York City Department of Education. For someone who's carefully balancing these two responsibilities, which I've gotten to see firsthand is very difficult, how can brands better find and serve smaller creators of color that often get overlooked? How can they uplift you and make it easier for you to get noticed?
I think, again, giving us the proper recognition. Don't try to belittle our how do I say this in the most simplistic way? Don't try to downsize our content. A lot of brands oftentimes hire you with the understanding of I do lifestyle, and they'll hire me for fashion, but then on set you're asking me lots of like lifestyle things and you're filming, but literally you'll ask me 10 minutes of things and just bring it down to 1 minute, and nothing that I said that aligns with my content will be included. I mean, just give us exactly what we're asking for. Keep our content authentic to us, and just be respectful and transparent and supportive. That's what I feel.
Elijah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. We can move to some audience questions. You know?
I pretty much disagree with everything that they say. I mean, what they said in regards to that topic. Anything that they could do to uplift us. I mean, I guess I would appreciate more recognition. Like if there's a specific initiative, like, hey, like we as a company have recognized that there's a gap in like minority creators that we haven't been working with, and we wanted to reach out to you specifically because we thought you'd be great for our brand. Like, yeah, I'd appreciate that, because those are things that are often not said to us. People just approach us with, with some type of situation they want us to get involved in, but they don't specify that that's why it is. I would appreciate that, but other than that, I agree with the other things they said.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to switch over to some audience questions since we have some that have been privately messaged to me. I really do like this one. Can you touch upon your process to get out of a creative block? How do you approach creating content that sets yourself apart from what's trending? I know, Kelly, you like mentioned getting a full report on what they kind of expect from you, but I know for the three of you, a lot of that creative process is probably the pressure is placed upon you. You're not told explicitly what to do. They want you to put your personality in it.
Honestly, you start creating an outline, because if I stay so much into my head, I just have to start like typing a word or a thought, and then you just gotta like really honestly just gotta look at it and start plugging things in, because I am an overthinker too. I have perfectionism leads to procrastination, which leads to getting nothing done. So I'll just start with like typing something, because I'll sit here for 8 hours and get nothing done.
I usually, for me, when I'm facing creative block, I do like a few things. Two of the things that I do is I walk a lot. So like I walk around my neighborhood. That's the first thing that I do. I start sourcing destinations that I want to shoot. Like I'll just be like, okay, I'm going to take a walk. I'll go this direction. I haven't been this way in a long time. Let me see if I see some inspo. A lot of the content that I shoot goes off of my mood. So like it depends on how I wake up in the morning, how did I sleep, how am I feeling, how does outside look. So those are the two things that I kind of just like focus on the weather and just then just like walking in my neighborhood. I enjoy my neighborhood. I live downtown Brooklyn, so I have access to like absolutely everything. So I'm always like trying to like incorporate, and I'm proud of Brooklyn, so I always try to incorporate like content around my neighborhood. So that's how I get, most of the times I get out my creative block that way.
Yeah, that's funny you say that. That's actually the exact same thing I do. I walk everywhere in Philly. So that's typically how I get out of a creative block. And ultimately what I do is whatever is, anyone who deals with a creative block, do what makes you feel the most free. And I know like taking a walk, going down an alley I never go to, just kind of wandering around, the ideas will come to you. You don't necessarily force it. And I never create an outline personally. Usually the ideas just come to me when I'm wandering around somewhere. And then like it'll come to me and then that's when I'll kind of put it together. And that's usually what will take me to the next level. And as far as separating yourself from others, it's just being authentic. You know, like whenever I'm looking at something or wanting to create content, I want to make sure the outfit is me and also separates me from my peers. And that's the win game really at the end of the day, by being yourself, being authentic and separating yourself from others who are doing the same thing.
Thank you. I find this next question pretty funny, but I think it is actually very important. Can boomers be influencers, or is this only for younger generations? And I think this is good because it really does speak to, is the influencing world diverse, or are you washed up by the time you're 30 or 40? How would you guys answer this?
I don't think so. I think one of my favorite influencers, her name is Granny Koi. I don't know if you guys know, she's like one of the big influence dancers. Like she's literally 70 years old. And we became friends over social media, like DM'd her all the time and like commented on things, such a super fan. I just think it depends on your personality. It's all about your personality and what you have to bring to these audience members. You know, like they love you either way you are. If you're funny, you can be 100 years old and be extremely funny. I feel personally like it's easier for an older person to like grasp a big audience because they're so cute, and if they're funny or try to do like one of the viral moves, automatically they hit it off, and then they just create this big space, and then they can just add their own twist to it. So yeah, no, I don't think it's an age thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I think if someone of an older age wants to influence or start creating content, it makes sense. Just because a lot of people in their older age, like they forget about their youth, and youth is a mindset, in my opinion. I don't think that that's determined by your age. So it could encourage a lot of older people to live in that last leg of their life or quarter% of their life. There's a lot of people who still have a lot of energy at that age and who can encourage others to do the same. So why not?
And I want to ask, what can companies overall do to better serve minority influencers? Is it pay? We talked a lot about communication, but just as kind of a general wrap-up question, what can we as aspiring marketers do overall to make your lives easier and better and feel more connected to the brands we work for?
I think one of the biggest things, in my opinion, is respect. I feel like they should just be very respectful all around. And that could just be an umbrella for a bunch of other things that fall under respect. Respect, be transparent. That's a part of respect. Respecting the rates, respecting what we create, respecting the hard work that we put into it, the love we put into it, the passion, the care. Yeah, just be very respectful. Like Elijah said, responding in a timely manner, that's respectful, because you don't know what's going on my end. Like for myself, I'm juggling two loves of my life, excuse me, and I love them both equally. and you don't know what I had to do in order to respond. Like when we spoke, Leah, I was literally in my office, just wrapped up a session with a kid, but I wanted to make that dedication to you because you respected the fact that I was at work, and I in turn had to show you that respect. So yeah, just be respectful.
Yeah, I would say definitely respect, and then also like recognition. Just like recognizing like what we have to do to make all these things happen, because until I started content creating, I didn't really know what went into it. But even this simple thing as creating a photo, I mean, that can take a couple hours out of your day, because you have to find a location, pick out what you want to wear, shoot, edit it. There's a lot of work that goes into just one outfit. And I think a lot of times, like from a PR agency perspective, if you don't know the work that goes into it, then you're not going to treat it as such. So maybe them being a little more educated on that entire process. I think that any agency who doesn't know what goes into the creative process isn't going to know exactly how much it's valued. So like that would probably be one of the biggest things I would say, is educating themselves a little more on what it is that we do, and then adjusting accordingly.
I like that.
Find us, like look for us, search Instagram, TikTok, YouTube for other types of creators. So if your bosses or your other influencer marketing team members have a specific idea of the people they want, or tell you to only find certain people like this, you can break the mold a bit and just maybe throw in some other names, throw some other influencers, and maybe write a couple notes saying, oh, this is why I think this would be interesting, and just an advantage for you. Anyone working, when they see you take initiative to do something different, even if they don't go with it's really good for you to show that you're really thinking. So just bringing new types of people into the mix would be like, wow, like you're actually paying attention at work. Good for you.
Thank you, everyone. I don't want to cut anybody off in the middle of a question, so I want to end there. I want to thank our amazing panelists for making time to talk with me this evening. And I want to thank our audience for coming to PRSSA's 2022 diversity panel. So yeah, thank you so much. And I